Fox 13 presents Healthier Together, sponsored by Regence Blue Shield.
And thanks for joining us for this special edition of Healthier Together as we highlight important stories that impact all of us. If you've been out recently, you've probably heard people talking about mocktails or maybe even tried one. They're not just a new food and beverage trend. It's part of a growing health movement around mindful drinking, where people try to eliminate or reduce the harmful effects of alcohol. Cutting back on alcohol. It's something that frequently tops the list of doctors' recommendations, New Year's resolutions, and weight loss routines. And lately, search engine results. Now that the phrase sober curious has been popping up, it's often defined as having the option to choose, question, or change your drinking habits. The sober curious movement has encouraged people to recognize the often unhealthy habits that are associated with alcohol. Local blogger and sober influencer Marcelle Van Camp says she decided to take a dry year as she found herself overindulging and needed to break bad habits.
I noticed a huge difference in my physical health pretty quickly, pretty early on. So better sleep was probably the most impactful aspect of removing alcohol from my life. And in doing that, by getting better and more sleep, I was able to exercise better, found more impact there, was able to focus more. Quite frankly, had more time in my day as well. So I just found that I was more productive, and which inherently made me feel better. So it was this beautiful circle of sleep leading to productivity, leading to feeling good, and all of that really continued and just became probably the best part of my dry year as it came to kind of the physical improvement.
Dr. Nicole St. Clair, Executive Medical Director for Regence Blue Shield Washington, says the benefits of the Sober Curious movement include mindful drinking. It also de-glamorizes the misuse of alcohol while stopping short of saying no one should ever drink.
I think during the pandemic, studies have shown, and I think most people would acknowledge, that overall drinking and alcohol consumption in the U.S. went up quite a bit. And in certain groups, especially in younger people, it might have more than doubled during this time period. And I think as everyone is trying to kind of transition back into different work schedules, back to school schedules, they're kind of realizing that heavier drinking is taking a toll on how they're feeling, on their productivity. We're also seeing this in studies. There was a recent article published in the journal in JAMA in November of 2022 that really highlighted the effects of this increased drinking. It really quantified the amount of increase that we've seen and correlated that to consequences. And what they found was, looking at folks aged 20 to 49, 1 in 5 deaths in that age group, 20%, could be attributed to excessive alcohol consumption. What you see here are 5 ounces of simulated alcohol in a variety of different glasses. And the reason that I think this is important is because it really shows you what is considered to be 1 serving of wine. Wine is the example now. The servings differ for different types of alcohol. This is really important because the definition of moderate drinking has changed, and really for women is 1 or less drink per day or less than 7 in a week, so not even every day. So that would be, if you're drinking wine, 1 glass of wine about this size or less each day. For men, that recommendation increases to 2 because of differences in physiology, but again is recommended to not have alcohol every day.
Van Camp runs a bar that serves hard alcohol and non-alcoholic drinks, or mocktails. She shares some tips on how you can take the first steps.
When it comes to finding alcohol-free options, I think the first step is to be clear that they're not replacements. So if you're looking for, I'm typically a red wine drinker, I'd like to just become an alcohol-free red wine drinker, you're not necessarily going to find direct parity between the two. So opening your palate, essentially, in your mind to the fact that this is a completely different category of spirits, a very quickly growing one as well, can lead to a lot of cool opportunities.
Van Camp says the mocktail space is experiencing tremendous growth.
I took a year off of drinking about 10 years ago, and I struggled most with that dry year simply because there were no alternatives for me. I had very few options. So this lineup that you see here today, a lot of this has come up in the last 5 years. And so the alcohol-free spirits, beer and wine category has doubled, tripled in the last couple of years.
And it's leading to exciting opportunities for adventurous patrons.
What's really cool about the alcohol-free spirits world is you've got 2 categories. The first of which are spirits that are really replicating something that you might be used to, like a tequila, for for example. So this is an alcohol-free tequila. And then you've got spirits that are completely unique. So this entire line, for example, isn't replicating anything. So it's created an entirely new category of spirit that's for adults. So this, you can't purchase this unless you're 21. This is designed for alcohol-free cocktail derivation and creates some really cool opportunities to make a cocktail that you've truly never had before.
Dr. St. Clair says that helps create a safe space for people who want to drink less or who don't want to drink at all. Dr. St. Clair also says it's important to understand moderate drinking for both men and women and what a serving of alcohol for beer, wine, and spirits actually looks like.
So I think the Sober Curious movement is wonderful because really it's just promoting all of us to be mindful and responsible with our choices. And that's something that I would want to promote for everything within health and the decisions that we make. So, you know, I think, again, as we're learning more and more about the negative ways that increased alcohol intake can affect us, you know, it leaves us asking, well, what should we do next? And for many people, perhaps they're not necessarily ready to say, I'm going to completely stop drinking, but many would say, I would like to be healthy and responsible with my drinking and really moderate. And so I think the Sober Curious movement is wonderful as a way for people who are unsure of what they want to do or unsure of what they're willing and able to commit to really kind of take a step in and start exploring, to start understanding what is too much alcohol consumption, what are the recommendations, and what are ways that you can adjust your intake while still maintaining your social life, your activities, and the things that you want to do.
Van Camp transitioned from her dry year to what she calls tempered drinking.
If I'm sitting down for dinner and I really decided that I want to have a beer with my burger, I'm going to make a conscious decision as to whether or not I want alcohol to be involved, and if I don't, then I'm going to lean on one of my alternatives. But if it's a Saturday and I don't have anything to do the next day and I'm carefree, then maybe I'll rotate between a standard beer and one of the alcohol-free options.
This is really important because there are a lot of consequences to excessive alcohol intake and very few health benefits. We've heard rumors about health benefits to your heart and longevity, but when we look in studies, we really don't see that. And what we actually see are much more complications of excessive alcohol intake. And that's not only liver disease, what many people have heard of, but there's also increased risks of dementia, increased risks of mood change, and really importantly, an increased risk of cancer. And the risk of cancer can be seen really with just chronic excessive alcohol intake. And so I think as we're all thinking about what's healthiest for ourselves and coming into transitioning from the peak of our kind of pandemic schedule to now transitioning back to work and other activities, it's really important to be mindful of how much alcohol we might be taking in, how much we may or may not have increased during this pandemic time, and ways to really make sure that our intake is back in line with medical recommendations going forward.
She thinks being able to pair good-tasting non-alcoholic spirits with a meal will help make the lifestyle more palatable.
Having this growing category available to try is why we developed the Unboozy menu at camp. We want people to continuously be able to explore new things. We're constantly creating new cocktails. We're constantly integrating new products in. And we really welcome the alcohol-free beer, wine, and spirits world to come into camp. Like, show us what you've got, because we're here to learn so that we can share with others.
There are many health benefits from quitting or reducing alcohol consumption. However, saving money might not be one of them. And that's because, according to Van Camp, creating a quality non-alcoholic drink requires many of the same steps and time as the real version. And that goes for the liquid in the bottle and the drink mixed at the bar. So the price is roughly the same. When we return, what was meant to help people kick the habit is turning teens into nicotine addicts. Welcome back to this special edition of Healthier Together, presented by Regents. Electronic cigarettes, or vape pens as they're commonly called, were originally introduced and marketed to help people stop smoking. But today, vaping has become a gateway to nicotine dependence in children. A new study from the CDC finds a growing number of teenagers are vaping, even after federal and state officials jacked up the purchasing age for e-cigarettes and other tobacco products, as well as banning most e-cigarette flavors.
Sometimes it's like in class, which is shocking because the teacher doesn't notice, but most of the time it's like in the bathroom.
Researchers surveyed roughly 28,000 middle and high school students across the country and found 14% of high schoolers said they recently vaped, up from the 11% who claimed to use e-cigarettes last year. Of that group, 28% said they vaped every day. Meanwhile, only 3% of middle schoolers said they recently used an electronic smoking device.
We're still seeing youth who are being caught, using these products on school grounds.
Most of this year's study participants took the survey while in school, compared to most who did it while at home last year because of remote learning. Health officials say kids are more likely to report vaping in school than at home.
I've seen kids, cutting class to go vape, It's just really sad.
And faculty at schools believe more kids may be gravitating towards e-cigarettes as a way to cope with the surge in mental health problems after the pandemic.
I know it's an escape, but it's an escape that is hurting them.
Well, vaping is one of those things that's really been changing over the last couple of years, mainly because there's been a lot of attention on it. Vaping was initially kind of developed and marketed to help people quit smoking cigarettes, and unfortunately it's kind of taken on a life of its own.
Dr. James Polo with Regions Blue Shield says vaping is still an alarmingly popular and troublesome trend.
Vaping basically is the inhalation of an artificial smoke that replicates what it would be like to smoke cigarettes, but what's most significant is vaping products contain nicotine. And it's the same nicotine that you'll get out of cigarettes, in some cases in a higher concentration than what you would get out of cigarettes. And so vaping all by itself can create a danger because of the nicotine addiction.
While the long-term health risks are still unknown, negative impacts from nicotine can include a short-term rise in blood pressure, the inability to focus, permanently reduced impulse control, anxiety, depression, and other mood disorders. And adolescents are more vulnerable to addiction than adults.
Over the past couple of years, the incidence or the prevalence of vaping has gone up significantly. Now, it just so happens in this last year, it actually went down in adolescents. But roughly about 11 to 12% of all high schoolers currently vape. Now, that percentage is even higher in adults. But a few years ago, it was 20% of all high schoolers. So it is at least getting better, partly because of the legislation. And I suspect also because kids have been out of school for a while, and so there's been less peer pressure.
Dr. Polo says it's important for parents to educate themselves and share accurate information with teens and young adults in your family. Also, be a great role model. That means quitting if you smoke or vape, and make sure your home and car are smoke-free. Also, educate your kids about the risks of secondhand smoke.
Well, I would recommend all parents to start those discussions with their children when they're very young, encouraging them to understand the facts around smoking and vaping, and encouraging them not to engage. For young kids, even perhaps helping practice how they might respond to a friend if they're asked, at school or on the playground or whatever hangout they are with other kids, how they could respond to essentially not engage.
Well, vaping is big business. Last week, a report in the Wall Street Journal stated that Juul, one of the leading e-cigarette firms, is in talks with Philip Morris and Altria Group regarding a potential sale or partnership. Still to come on this special edition of Healthier Together, would you know how to spot someone who's choking? We're breaking down the signs to look for and how you can take action to save a life. Welcome back to this special edition of Healthier Together, presented by Regents. This next story poses an important question. Would you know if the person next to you started choking? Many people confuse the signs of choking, and that can cost a life. Fox 13's Maria Garcia has more from a CPR instructor regarding what signs to look for and how you can help.
Hello, everybody. I'm joined by Marlo Holloway here to talk about CPR and the dangers of choking, especially during the holiday season. So talk to me about why this work is so important to you.
Yeah, it's so important to help parents feel confident during an emergency. I think learning CPR and how to help a child who's choking is just it's a good life skill to have.
So why can it be difficult to determine that somebody is indeed choking? I think people have an idea of what that looks like, and it's often wrong.
Yeah, so I think people respond differently during choking. I think adults perhaps may put 1 or 2 hands to their throat if they're choking, but little ones just may have big, bug-eyed, panicky, scared look. And so if someone has never taken a CPR class, they may not recognize what the symptoms or what someone looks like. And if you've never witnessed someone who's choking, you may not know. It may look like somebody's trying to vomit versus somebody trying to clear their airway.
So we often think, I know on TV, you know, like the hacking, the coughing, but that generally means somebody is breathing for the most part. So what should we be looking out for if somebody is actually choking?
Yeah, we sort of separated into a mild obstruction versus a complete airway obstruction. So if the obstruction is mild, someone can still talk, they can still breathe and cough effectively. But if someone's airway is completely blocked, they won't be able to say words, they won't be able to cough effectively. Maybe it's a silent cough. And so those are some of the things that you'd be looking for: inability to speak, inability to cough, and not be able to move any air.
So what are the steps we're supposed to be taking if someone over the age of 1 appears to be choking?
Yeah, so if someone over the age of 1 is choking, you want to first ask them, are you choking? And then you can ask them, can you speak? You want to see if they can get words or air out. And then just let them know that you're trained and you can help them. So I might have, if someone is with me, have them go call 911. And then I would stand behind the person. I'd want to locate their navel, place one fist an inch above their navel, wrap, so you're standing behind the person. And then, you know, palm the other fist, and you want to give inward and upward motions. And each time you're thrusting up, it's with the intent to get the object out. And you would just continue the thrusting in and up until they can speak and talk normally. Liam, are you choking? Can you speak? I'm trained. I'm going to help you. Maria, go ahead and call 911. So I'm going to go ahead and locate his belly button and make a fist 1 inch above the belly button, palm the fist, and I'm going to give inward and upward thrust continually until the object comes out. Very good. Are you feeling better? Yeah. And so the steps to help an infant who's choking is you'd want to place them face down on your knee, and with the heel of your hand, you're going to give back slaps, 5 of them. Then you'll support their head, flip them over, and give 5 chest compressions in the center of the chest. And you would continue with 5 back slaps and then 5 chest compressions until you dislodge the object. So first, just take a deep breath yourself and just watch them for just a moment. And maybe they can clear that choking on their own by coughing. And let's say that they can't. Maybe their face starts to turn red. So get them out of the high chair, support their jawline, and go ahead and flip them upside down. So we're looking for the head to be lower than the rest of the body so that gravity can help you. Then with the back of your hand, right between the shoulder blades, you're going to give 5 back slaps. Supporting the head, you want to flip the baby over, still keeping the head lower than the rest of the body, and give 5 chest compressions. 2, 3, 4, 5. And go ahead and support the jawline, and just continue with 5 back slaps and 5 chest compressions until the object comes out or the baby's able to breathe on their own.
And you mentioned earlier that the recommendation here is to do this seated, so you don't drop the baby, but whatever option you have available, I'd imagine.
That's right.
And I noticed on the back slaps, is that just in or is it up as well?
It's just straight in, and then gravity is going to help us take it down. Taking a class, not just the knowledge base where you may find something online, but the hands-on, creating a muscle memory, going through the steps of actually helping someone who's choking can really help you feel confident in an emergency. And
I think with the advances in technology now, it's possible to get kind of at least half of that piece, a comprehensive course, which you'd shared with me on learning more about that. It can be overwhelming, but if you do it repeatedly, it can be something that sticks with you.
It can definitely stick with you, like riding a bike or anything that you do more than once. Yeah.
Excellent. Is there anything else you wanted to add?
Oh, thank you for having me today, and I'd love to share, you know, what I know.
Before this special edition of Regions Healthier Together comes to a close, we want to share an important message about the power of a positive mind. On our last special, we aired a story about former Seattle Storm player Simone Edwards and her battle with ovarian cancer. And during that report, we shared how Simone went to her doctor after noticing pain in her lower back that just wouldn't go away. We wanted to share a part of her interview that didn't make the show, as she talks about how important it is to stay strong and control what you can when facing negative news.
I always say this: I have cancer, cancer does not have me. Which means a lot of time, if you tell somebody I have cancer, the first thing they say, oh, I'm so sorry. It's like you're telling me you're dying. They see death. As you tell your friend, they start crying. They, you know, they related so much. But what you understand, we are going to die at some point in our life, with cancer or without cancer, right? So my thing is that life is about moments. So I'm still living. I'm thankful I can still walk, I can laugh, I can dance, I can sing, I can travel. And these are the things I hold on to. So my life still goes on, you know, doing the things that I can. And for anybody who's out there, you know, it doesn't matter, you know, if it's just, you just find out or you're going through your chemo, your week. Your mindset is so powerful. It's what you feed your body. That part you have control of, to me, you know. And so what I have control of, I'm going to use it to fight it. And that's positive, a positive mindset. And that's trying to, you know, tell myself each day that you still have life. And so each moment I try to make it memorable because I have control over certain things. And what I have control over, again, is my happiness. And cancer is not going to take that. It can take whatever that I don't have control of, but it's not going to take control of me. My mind or nothing like that. I don't live like I have cancer. I don't want to tell a pity story. What I want to do is tell people out there that, you know, you have to just believe. Believe that you'll heal. No matter, there's so many people, the doctor tell you have 2 months, 3 months. I have friends that, you know, they're told you have 3 months to live. I have a friend. And is living now 5 years cancer-free. So don't hold on to numbers or going and start researching on your own and looking at Google and see this percent. It's not good. You know, don't feed your mind with that. As a matter of fact, if you're going to look up a vacation that you can afford or something like that. You know what I mean? You know, something fun. Like, don't go and feed all of this. And that's what I refuse. I refuse to do that. And so as much as I can, and exercise is so important. I start working out with groups called, start partnering with called Too Unstoppable because, you know, my book's name is Unstoppable and I feel like I'm unstoppable. And so it's about exercising because a lot of people don't exercise. Okay? And I think it helps a lot. And I was thinking that because I used to exercise so much, that's what helps me. Because from talking to them, the cancer that I have should have killed me already. It should have been gone. So I think when I had changed the way I was eating and exercising, slowed it down, even though I don't know. And then my body was like, hey, Miss Hurricane, you need to, you know, there's something going on. Because if I had just ignored all of that and just settled with just, okay, it's just that, I would have been gone.
Well, thank you for joining us for this special edition of Healthier Together. For more stories, go to fox13seattle.com/healthiertogether.